What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to... wait a minute. This looks really plain. 1 second. There we go. Right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I'm still wearing this hoodie. Still got this hoodie on. It's covered in stains. I need to change into something more appropriate. Something more appropriate for the video at hand. Today, to talk about Monday Night Raw in Glasgow. There we go. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about last night's Raw, Monday Night Raw from Glasgow. But before we properly kick this video off, as you can see, I've slightly moved my setup about. Obviously, this is all stuff that you have seen before. My desk used to be against this wall, now it's against here, pointing back on this. I've got more room to put some stuff up. I'm going to put some more stuff up. I'm going to move these over here so they're not hidden behind me. But if there's anything, that you think I should maybe put in there, any fun little things, obviously there's some photos of a certain Celtic man that I'm going to be putting up on this wall very, very soon. Just let me know if you have any ideas of things you think could be fun to throw in behind me here. But no, today we are here to talk about last night's Monday Night Raw. And again, I don't want to come on here and be, AEW rah rah rah, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't a good Raw. I'd say, if we're being honest, I would say it was closer to a bad Raw. So, of course, I have been fairly critical of this build, of this road to WrestleMania. I don't really think a lot of it has worked. I think a lot of the matches that we're building to are just being done because we've left it too long to decide what a certain wrestler's going to do. I spoke about how, given CM Punk a triple threat match at WrestleMania, there is one that makes a lot more narrative sense. That's him and Cody and Cena. And the one that does not make narrative sense is him and Rollins and Reigns, because he has a good narrative structure with both of those guys in singles matches, but there's not a real through line with all three. Obviously, Roman and Rollins can go at any time because of Shield lore. I think what they're doing with Bianca and Io and Rhea is not the most interesting in terms of a storyline. I think as a match, that's going to be absolutely incredible, and I'm incredibly excited for where the three of them are going to go in ring, because they're probably the three most reliable in-ring performers on WWE's main roster, and not just the three most reliable. Io and Bianca are probably two of the top three performers in the women's division in ring. I've just not been massively in love with the build, and I think last night's Raw kind of exemplified that. Now, I'm not going to go through every segment bit by bit. I'm just going to kind of talk about the broader strokes of the show. I'm going to talk about some things that did work, some things that didn't work. But obviously, we started off the show with a Cena promo, and he basically just cuts the same promo as last week. And as much as I like the direction of heel Cena, this week's promo just felt like treading water. It felt like he was just repeating a lot of the same things last week, because instead of kind of clearing up what they want the direction of this character to be for the people who are confused, they're just telling us it again in the same. They're just repeating it back to us as if that's going to be the thing that makes people who don't quite understand where the Cena character is going understand it this time. If we tell them again, just this time he's telling them in Glasgow and not Brussels. He cuts the same promo. You people did this to me. You've never appreciated me for who I am. What chance, all that. Then Cody comes out. They face off. They don't actually fight. Usual stuff. And Cena's not advertised for another show up until Mania, I think now. Which, again, this is now 3 years in a row Cody's having to carry the Mania build because he's across from a part-timer. And I love Cena. I absolutely love Cena, and I'm incredibly excited for this match. But with Cena not advertised for TV for quite a while now, nothing Cody's doing is that interesting, to me at least. Nothing Cody's doing is interesting enough to carry the other side of this. The same way that I don't think what Cody was doing was particularly that interesting to carry it without Roman being on TV last year. I just think it puts this match in a weird spot, and I do think they will deliver. I just am confused as to where this goes, especially with no real clarification on heel Cena and heel Cena's goals and heel Cena's sort of motivation. Obviously, he's motivated to win this championship, and he's saying, I'm going to win this championship and I'm going to retire with it. You know, they're doing Summer of Punk, basically. They're saying, I'm going to take this championship and I'm going to go home and you can crown another toy champion. He said the motivation for this is the spinner. So the people on the internet were calling it a toy championship. So what I'm going to do is win this championship. I'm going to retire because no one is better than me. I am going to oust Ric Flair, have 17 world championships, and then retire with this championship. So you can create a real toy champion with whoever wins it after I'm gone, because no one can beat me. Which is very interesting. But for the rest of his promo, just repeating what he said last week, because people didn't quite understand it, and only adding in one new layer, I don't think was that great. And there is now a lot of pressure on this segment next week in London to really, really, really kind of push it over the line to get everyone invested in this match. For me, character-wise, for this match at Mania. I do think the match is going to be amazing. I'm very excited for that match. But I completely understand where a lot of people are coming from. And the criticisms that a lot of people have were very kind of evident last night, I'll say. Up next then, we had the Usos versus A-Town Down Under. Jimmy being Jay's surprise mystery partner. The match was fine. It's good seeing the Usos back because I like Jey Uso when he tags with his brother. The match was a fine, nothing TV match though. Jay finally hit the first good spear he's ever hit, but Jimmy pops Theory up into the air. I think it's Theory, no, it's Waller. He pops Waller up into the air and he's meant to catch him out of midair with the spear. Was it Theory? It was one of them. If Jimmy pops him up, he's meant to catch him with the spear, and Jay mistimes it. So Theory or Waller, whoever he hits with it, has landed on his feet and then he gets speared, when it's very clear that what they were aiming for was the pop up into the spear. And then there was a 1D, and then they've won, and then Gunter comes out, jumps him, Jay gets a couple hits in, fights him off enough to go for a spear, then slips when he runs for the spear, and then Gunter then puts the boots in on him after he slips. The ring general can't get the best of Yeet Man after a match because he slipped. And now we don't know if the slip was real or if it was planned, but they've been doing this whole thing of Jay losing confidence, so it was probably real that he slipped and fell going into this. And I mean, everyone's been, like, Gunther was drawing attention to it on social media, which makes me think it probably was planned, and it's a bad angle. It's a bad angle. All the build that they're doing into this match helps nobody. No one wins here. And I'm not excited for this match whatsoever. There's some more things that kind of go on in between segments. We've got an El Grande Americano segment where the LWO find out that Chad Gable is sick, has a doctor's note, so he can't wrestle. So Dragon Lee offers, basically, Gable says Dragon Lee can fight the new guy, that's El Grande Americano. Dragon Lee accepts that for later. We had a Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Lyra Valkyria and Raquel Rodriguez. I thought it was good, I thought it was fine. Lyra retains, obviously. I don't really get what the end goal is for her reign, and you know, as much as I saw that one tweet on that one person on Twitter being like, oh, all she's done is defend her title, which is obviously a dog shit take, you know, they've not really given her anything to do with her defences. She comes out, she hoops, and that's good, but in a company that sort of does not have the booking philosophy of Hooper's Hoop, it just does feel weird that they're just putting her on TV just to have that title on TV. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Obviously, it's got her a lot of exposure, it's got her a lot of TV time, it's probably helping with her merch sales and things like that. But Valkyrie is such a good wrestler. Valkyrie is one of the best in that women's division in the entire company. I would probably say she's maybe only behind Io, Bianca, and Julia. I'd put her ahead of Stephanie Vaquer, I'd put her ahead of Jordan Grace. That's how good I think she is. But it does kind of worry me going into WrestleMania, because what are we doing with her? You know, are we just going to have her do a 6-woman pre-show scramble? Because that, as much as, you know, we get her on Mania, it doesn't feel, you know, befitting of a wrestler of that caliber. There's then a big post-match beatdown in that match as well, that then Bayley runs out, makes the save, and it doesn't feel like that's building to anything. That's just because Glasgow loves Bayley, and we got the Bayley pop and the hey Bayley, like that felt like the only reason to do that there, and it just doesn't feel like they have plans for Bayley really going into Mania. It doesn't feel like they have plans for Valkyrie going into Mania. It doesn't feel like they have plans for a lot of things going into Mania, as has been the theme of recent weeks of television. The next thing we got then was El Grande Americano versus Dragon Lee. We got an AI slop video package We then got El Grande Americano being billed from the Gulf of America. We have lots of weird sort of subtext and overt things going on in the current political landscape. And listen, I'm not going to get into it. I do think billing him from the Gulf of America is gross. I also think it's the weird AI video package when it's like, look at all these lucha legends and then like weird AI versions of everything. My thoughts on AI are very well known. Generative AI is awful, it's anti-art, and it has no place in popular media. But there's an AI slot video package, and then we have this match, and there's been a lot of kind of discourse and debate online regarding it, and the sort of, racist dog whistles and things like that have been the comparisons have been drawn to it. I'm not going to get into it. I do think I enjoyed the segment. I think El Grande Americano is a fun wrestler. He reminds me a lot of Chad Gable, who I think is a fun wrestler, and I do not put any of the blame of what's going on here at the feet of the wrestlers. It's at the very least clumsy and dumb, and it's most sinister just some outright racist dog whistling on our television, which, I'm not going to get into it further than that. I like to think it's just a little bit clumsy, but with the history of World Wrestling Entertainment and things that they have done, I can understand why so many people are falling on the side of, we got to stop this right now. And listen, I'm not Latino. It's not really my place to speak on it. It does make me a little bit uncomfortable, though. I don't think it's a good look. Again, though, this is to take nothing away from that match, because El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee, they went out there and they fucking hooped. That match ruled. And of course, I would like to extend my well wishes to Chad Gable. Get well soon. Thank you. We had a couple more segments then. We had a Punk promo segment, just basically hyping up the contract signing in London next week, because neither of the other men in that contract signing are at Raw or were in Glasgow. We then got to, we had a Logan Paul vignette thing. He's going to be in London. And then we got to the main event, which was the Intercontinental Championship. Penta versus Braun Breaker. These two were hooping. Judgment Day shenanigans. DQ finish. Nonsense. Shite. And now listen, I do not hate the idea of what we're definitely getting, which is Penta, Braun, Balor, and Dom for the IC title, probably with Dom winning, sends Finn off to, I guess, have one, probably the end of his last full-time run as a babyface, and do some fun stuff with that. The match was good, but the DQ finish in the main event of a show in a country that historically has hot crowds, historically has rabid, rowdy crowds, you're saying, thank you guys for always doing this for us. We gave you a pay-per-view last year. We're going to give you a Raw. Thank you so much for the continued support. Here's an absolute stinker of a Raw, and we are going to finish the show. The main event of the actual televised broadcast is going to be a brilliant match that everyone's going to be into, and then we're going to end it on a DQ. It was a bad way to end the show, and I don't necessarily think it's that bad if we put it elsewhere on the card, but to end the show on that note just doesn't feel good whatsoever. You look at the whole show, right? The whole show, I believe, only had 4 matches. Let me just double check. The show in total had 4 matches with a combined match time of, let me just double check, with a combined total of 41 minutes on the button, if my maths is right, bell to bell, over a show that took place over like 2 and a bit hours. That's crazy. You bring these shows to these international venues and these international audiences to say thank you for always being rabid and insane, and we are rewarding you and we're bringing these shows here. And every time the shows come here, people always talk on Twitter and they say, this sounded amazing, we need to get more shows in these places. But then you bring these shows here and book dog shit matches and book dog shit cards, and that's what last night was. It was not a good show. And you had Cena out there cutting the same promo he cut last week. He just revealed a little bit of his motivation more. You had Punk out there just to get him in front of the Glasgow audience to essentially say, hey Glasgow, I love it here. I'm going to be in London next week to do the thing that actually matters, though. Then we had the El Grande Americano match, which realistically, and I've seen a lot of people saying this, they put this on in Scotland because people are going to cheer, because they're going, it's a big WWE show here. We're doing the fun silly thing with the guy that wrestles a lot like Chad Gable. We loved when Chad Gable actually wrestled here last year against Sammy. This guy looks a lot like Chad Gable. He's doing all his moves. That's cool and fun. But you do that here to give yourself the separation from when you say from the Gulf of America and you do all these things, because realistically, people here in Scotland, the average person is not going to be as politically involved as I am, and the average person here isn't going to be looking at that and going, oh, there's some like weird, and that's a little bit that's a little bit fucked up. Whereas if you do that in America, that is going to... People in America are going to cop onto that, and they're going to click on what's going on a lot quicker than the audience at the Hydro will, by virtue of the fact it's at the Hydro. They're burying the lead on, like I said, what I hope is not an outright racist gimmick, and is a, but like I say, at least is a clumsy and club-footed attempt at something dumb and fun, and at worst is just fuel on the fire and an incredibly tense time politically. So again, this year's WrestleMania build is weird, it is confusing, and I do not like it, and I am still to be convinced. Now, I'm going to watch WrestleMania. I watch WrestleMania every year. I'm going to enjoy WrestleMania. I enjoy WrestleMania almost every year, but there's a lot that they're going to have to do to make me really, really, really care about WrestleMania, further than the fact I will always care about WrestleMania because I'm who I am as a person. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the show last night. Let me know what you think of the WrestleMania build, all that stuff, all that good stuff. Let me know down below how we're feeling, what we're thinking going into Raw next week and SmackDown this week. How are we feeling as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania? I really do want to hear everyone's opinion. But yeah, once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. Thank you so much for spending your time with me to talk wrestling. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.